The most important question: why should somebody prefer India for medical tourism compared to, say, Singapore or Malaysia or Mexico, which are as important?
So when you think about India as a healthcare destination, globally, generally there's a strong recognition and a belief and an appreciation for the fact that some of the best doctors in the world are Indian. And so I think that whenever people talk about great doctors, and you hear about top doctors in the US, top doctors in Europe, the reality is that doctors here are no different. The difference was till recently was that they did not have the infrastructure and the technology that the Western world did. Today, on a level playing field, if you take a great cardiac surgeon like Dr. Bala in Chennai or Ashok Seth, a great cardiologist in West Coast, they're as good as anybody in the world. And we've had situations and instances where patients have actually been referred to the US by somebody here, and in US they've said, go to this doctor in India, because that's where the best care is. So I think that why anybody would consider India is that you could never have an initiative or an institution like medical tourism standing on one leg, and the one leg being cost. That's cheap, because by itself it doesn't work, not when it's health. Right? Think about when you have a really, really bad headache and you don't have 2 aspirin or 2, at that point you would give 1,000 rupees to get to it. True. Because you want to feel better. So there's no value. You don't say, oh, 10 rupees, no, it has to be 8. I said that, I wanted. So it can't be a one-leg stand. So I think what we have is, we have the value and the quality piece package that really comes together very, very nicely. And I think beyond that, I think you get, from a medical clinical perspective, I think you start to get breakthrough medicine as well. It's not just medicine as usual. I think we have doctors in India that are doing just outstanding clinical work that much of the rest of the world is not doing today.
That's true, sir. So the next thing that what we had in mind, that in India, only top of the line hospitals are having wherewithal and verticals independent to handle medical tourism, tourists coming from different parts of the world, in the sense that they can afford marketing team, they can afford having branches or reps there, and who can woo them, convince them to come over to India. So how, as a senior man who has an exposure to the entire sector, you are not just representing Fortis, but you are also one of the senior most experienced person in the sector. So how do we try bringing about some kind of level playing, say between the top of the line hospitals and not as big hospitals but as efficient hospitals, which are in the tier 2 cities, or even in Delhi, Mumbai, etc., which are not top but yet good.
So keep in mind one thing, that Fortis Healthcare has hospitals in tier 1 cities, the Delhis of the world and the Bombays of the world, etc. But we also have hospitals in tier 2 and tier 3. So Calcutta is a tier 2 city. Mohali is a tier 3 city. So we are well represented in all of the geographies. I don't think the issue is so much about how do we give a tier 2, tier 3 city equal opportunity, because the challenge that a tier 3 city would typically have is logistics and geography, right? Because if I'm a patient, if I'm going to fly into Delhi or Bombay, now you want me to get on a train, or you want me to get on another flight, so it's more about, again, back to the patient who has a bad headache. So a patient who potentially, whether they need some life-saving surgery or they need something, they're on limited time, chutti pe aaye, they've come on holiday. So the logistics piece is what differentiates a tier 1 city and tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, etc. So keep that in mind, and that's the number one challenge around it.
Okay.
The number 2 piece is that I think in terms of creating a level playing field, I think that one of the discussions we've been having with the government has been around accreditation and setting up some minimum standards, so that, quite honestly, I'm a big fan of accreditation. I'm a big fan of minimum standards, because it's too dangerous otherwise. We still continue to be in a fairly unregulated environment compared to the rest of the world. And if every hospital could do every procedure, I think that would be an unsafe environment, and eventually would give Indian healthcare a bad name. So we have to be very careful that that doesn't happen. In our own system, we don't, we have
Just shutting it off.
credentialing measures, and we're slowly building privileging measures as well, so that you're very clear on who can do what and where you can do it. You have to have the right technology, right equipment. We don't provide cancer treatment in every hospital. We don't provide pediatric facilities in every hospital. You have to have the right clinician, you have to have the right equipment, right technology, right environment, right support. So I think that accreditation is the answer, and that's a discussion we've been having with the government. So let's come up with some minimum standardization or accreditation, that if you're going to treat patients, kam se kam itna to hona chahiye. You have to be able to have these, and whether that's clinical, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's safe, whatever it might be. So that's what I think should be. So not so much a geography issue, not so much a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, it's more about geography and logistics. And in terms of leveling the playing field, accreditation. And so if you have a 50-bedded hospital who can give fantastic cardiac care and they have accreditation, by all means, God bless them, they should. But if you could have a 500-bedded hospital who's poorly run, it's not well run, and you don't have accreditation, well, that's just going to give everybody a bad.
Very true. In fact, the other day we had a chance to talk to one of the joint directors of NABH, and he was sharing that already government has taken an initiative.
We're having the discussion.
Exactly. 2-3 meetings have already taken place.
So KK and I were all on the same. I know that's what you're talking about. We're on the same body, so he and I are participating in the same conversations.
Yes.
And that's a great example.
So by when do you think this is going to happen?
ये तो आपको मालूम है, इन चीज़ों को थोड़ा टाइम लगता है. As far as I'm concerned, it should happen tomorrow. The sooner the better. We all want it to happen.
Going a little ahead of this, sir, we are also trying to draw a comparative picture between what's happening here and what's happening in Mexico, Thailand, and Singapore, and so on. So, what are the facilitation indicators you think that they have which we don't have when we are talking about medical tourism, not just the treatment? When somebody comes here, in addition to good quality treatment, in addition to good infrastructure, good doctors, what do you think they get here they don't get there, or which they get there they don't get here?
Well, I think what they get here is very simple. I think clinical care that you get here will be far superior to anything else, any place else. In fact, I would say at any place in the world. So I feel very confident about not just what Fortis does, but Indian healthcare in general. Again, based on some minimum accreditation. So whether it's us or any of the other players, I think we all provide tremendous high quality patient care. Certainly I think Fortis is slightly better, but I think we all do a good job. Everybody wants to do the right thing. So that's one. So from a clinical perspective, I think I think we're unrivaled. That's one. I think where the other environments benefit, where they have a slight advantage over us, is that A, they've been doing it longer. Our organized healthcare environment is just coming up the last 10, 15, 20 years. B is I think the governments have worked harder to partner with industry. So whether it's visas and how long it takes to get a visa, or a healthcare visa, or the ease of in and out. So the ability to do things like that. But again, I anticipate that in the next 12 to 18 months, a lot of these things will change. You should be able to come, from Indira Gandhi Airport, come down the escalator, and you have this group, and then you should see medical visa. It should be that simple. And you should be able to come right through.
So it's often...
It's not. I'm saying that's what should be happening.
Yeah.
And that's what some of these other countries are doing, and we should be able to provide these things, and we should make it easier. It shouldn't take you 3 months to wait at the Indian embassy in some African country waiting to get a visa. It should be much, much quicker. So we have to make it easy, because as it is, you have to remember that if you don't live in India, and if you have not lived in India, especially when you talk about the US or Western Europe, because I've spent most of my life in the US, coming to India is hard. Right? It's hard. If you're used to something else, coming to this country is hard. So let's work extra hard to make it easier.
Coming back to, sir, the standardization bit, which you rightly pointed out. Till now, whatever discussions you had, what are the broad parameters which are emerging, which can set the tone of standardization?
I think that, quite honestly, I think most of it has been focused on accreditation. And the government's been talking about, there's a web portal that exists today that talks about which hospitals you can go to, for good quality treatment. But I don't think it's refined enough where you have some accreditation. I think based on accreditation, you can actually come up with. So we have basic NABH that KK would have shared with you, basic NABH accreditation. You could come up with a different type of accreditation for international patients. You could say that, okay, here's NABH and here's NABHI international, whatever that means. And you could then agree on what they might be. But I think, listen, I think NABH as an example or any form of accreditation would be a good first step. It'll actually do a lot. It'll help quite a bit. I think beyond that, you can start to have, whether it's, because India in general, we don't have clear protocols, clinical protocols in place today. I think that's evolving. I think as the Indian healthcare industry matures and we get more refined and we start having very clearly documented clinical protocols in place and we start tracking outcomes across the board. So Fortis today is the only healthcare player that publishes clinical outcomes. Right? So you can have more. That can become an enabler at some point where you say that if you want medical tourism, if you want international patients, you have to publish your outcomes. Right? So those types of things. But I think we're still evolving. I think basic accreditation is a great first step.
Great, sir. Going a little beyond again, sir, we find that of late the new government, when it came to power, it upgraded a department into a ministry. Independent minister was appointed to look after the ministry, and that showed the thrust of the government on alternative medicines. But we find that the focus is more on yoga and Ayurveda, and the remaining are sort of left out or understated. Would you like to comment on that?
Yes, and I think it comes down to prioritizing. Right? I'd be lying to you if I said to you that I spend a whole lot of time thinking about how can we further grow this side of it, because we have a tough time just getting transplant patients. Right? You have payment challenges in terms of how do people pay, because in terms of currency exchange, you have logistics challenges. There's so much in basic tertiary care where we have challenges and opportunities that I think I'm a big believer that yoga, Ayurvedic, homeopathic, anything around nutrition, anything around cleansing. We haven't even made a big deal about dental and ophthalmology. They're big opportunities for us as well. So I think for all of these things, I think we have to continue to grow. I think we have to continue to look at other opportunities where we can serve and help people live healthier, longer, better lives. But I think it's a good start. The more we do, the better.
In that case, sir, how do you compare and contrast with China? Because we are told, you would be knowing better, that in China they have been able to blend the modern medicine better with traditional medicine. Whereas in India, still the disconnect is...
Yeah, they probably have, but again, it's a function of industries maturing. I mean, if you look at our India in across the board has so many different industries at different levels of maturity. So let's think about mature industries in India. Tourism, hotel, hospitality is a mature industry. If you travel outside of India, you will recognize and realize that the good hotels in India are better than hotels anywhere in the world. We have some of the best hotels in the world. The level of service we provide, the quality food we provide, the environment we provide, I think we have some of the best hotels in the world. Look at fast food. Right? We only have homegrown Indian 3 or 4 fast food chains in the country. Haldiram, as an example.
True.
Right? Pindabaluchi. So you only have, but 15, 20 years from now, we'll see 100 of them. These things will evolve. So I think that where China is today is a function of the fact that they've evolved, they've matured. I think when it's all said and done, and I don't think it's going to take us 20 years. I think in the next 5, 7, 10 years, I think we'll far eclipse anything that China ko tomorrow goli. I think whether it's Singapore, whether it's Malaysia, because these are the two, Thailand, these are great healthcare destinations, I think we'll be just as good, if not better.
Another, sir, question which was coming to my mind, not listed here, but we still wanted to just take a chance to ask you. That of late, sir, you are planning to bring in some kind of standardization also for the medical facilitation, medical tourism facilitation companies. So they are not recognized, so one doesn't really know how good or how bad they are. So it's all word of mouth, it's all pick and choose and stuff. How do we, what you think should we look for when we are talking about a good medical tourism facilitation company?
I think, so first of all, I think you need to have some level of accreditation again, some sort of licensing for people to be able to do it. It's very interesting when you attend meetings on this topic with healthcare professionals. A lot of people say we have to get rid of them, which I think is a ridiculous statement. I think what we have to do is start creating proper platforms for them. It's a lot like when countries around the world said we should get rid of Uber, right? Get rid of Uber because they're causing nuisance. Actually, what you should do is figure out how to use Uber.
True.
So I think all these facilitators that we have, we should figure out how to use them. Get some standards in place in terms of what they do.
So what is that, sir, minimum that we can look
I think
for
you can look at some level of education, you can look at some level of investment that they're making, you can look at some level of experience, understanding it, you can even have a course on ethics and values. You should have, I think you have to have, the accreditation should not be as simple as me filling out a document and giving it and depositing 50 rupees and getting a permit. I don't think it should be that. I think it should be a lot. So it shouldn't be like getting a mobile phone. You sit someplace, fill it out, ID shadi dikhao, or mil gaya. It should be based on some education, some level of experience, some commitment, something along those lines. Anything will be better than what we have now, which is nothing.
Great, sir. Any message, anything you would like to give in general?
No, Liz, I'm extremely excited about what's happening in medical tourism. I think the great thing about what's happening in India is that we have a value proposition that as it matures, as it evolves, is going to be far better than anything else anywhere in the world from a value perspective, from a quality perspective, and an experience perspective. And that, and again, while I think Fortis is a little bit better than everybody else, I think it goes for Indian healthcare. I think we have some fantastic hospitals in India. I think we have some the world's best doctors here, and I'm very, very happy and proud that we can help lead the way. But all thumbs up. Look forward to great things.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And last, a little feedback from you on the portal that Government of India has
evolving,
has just set up
and hopefully becomes easier to use. Because I know we've had some issues with access, but I think it's fantastic. I think it's fantastic, and I think it'll continue to get better, I'm sure. But I think ease of use becomes very important, and let's figure out a way to build awareness around it, because that's going to really help us. We're excited about it. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Good. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you both.
Yes.